Welcome to the Prepped and Polished podcast, the podcast that empowers you to take control of your education, featuring weekly interviews with influencers in the world of education, as well as tutoring tips, lessons, and updates. And now, here's your host, Alexis Avila.
This is episode number 218, and I'm talking to college counselor Casey Neer of College Wise. Make sure to join our community, our Prepped and Polished podcast community. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on Facebook. Just type Prepped and Polished and you'll be on your way. We have a wonderful YouTube channel, over 1 million views there, over 200 videos, tutorials. And you can just check out our site, preppedandpolished.com, if you need tutoring, one-to-one, in person or online, 781-753-9951, or go to preppedandpolished.com. Let's get right to today's episode. So today I'm talking to Casey Neer, and Casey is a college counselor with college placement firm College Wise. She graduated Summa Cum Laude from Scripps College in California and worked as an admissions counselor at Mills College. On today's episode, Casey talks about why it's really important to be yourself in the college application process, and kind of shows you some tips on how to present your best self on the college applications. For another related episode, make sure you turn the dial back to episode 160 with Lynn O'Shaughnessy, and I talked to Lynn about how to get smarter about the college planning process. I found that Lynn's episode and this one are very congruent. And to work with Casey Neer, go to collegewise.com. And we have a wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoy it. This is episode 218, and Happy New Year. Casey, thanks for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Great, thank you. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your background and focus on a few pivotal moments that led you to where you are today as a nationally recognized college counselor and mentor for teens getting ready for college?
Absolutely. I'll shorten the auto bio a little bit. My name is Casey Neer, and I'm the Executive Director of Counseling at College Wise, which is the largest college counseling company. And we've been at it we just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Wow.
We had a big birthday party, which was very exciting. My journey to it, which was frankly what guides me every day in my work with students, was as a high school student applying to college, and I was that kid who came into my college counselor's office with a binder ready to go of all the schools I was excited about, and had too many Post-its, and my parents were blissfully disconnected and empowering at the same time, so it was really my journey. And I landed at University of Pennsylvania in my first year of college, and I found that as much as I loved Philadelphia and I loved American history, it was not a fit for me in any way. But I was an experiential learner, needed to figure that out on my own, and I transferred to Scripps College in Southern California, a women's college in the Claremont Consortium, which was a delightful fit. And the moment I hit the ground there, I immediately volunteered to be a tour guide. I worked in the admissions office. I kind of worked my way up there. And the current and still director of admissions there became a mentor to me and really launched me into the world of admissions. And I think personally realized that my own journey had understandably gotten a bit, not even I would say thwarted, in the sense that I'm grateful for every turn it took, but I think I fell into the kind of being swayed a little bit by prestige and saying, well, this is a school that everyone has heard of, therefore it must be a fit, when in fact it wasn't a place that was really a good fit for me at Penn, and Scripps ended up being a much better place for myself. So after I left there, I worked in admissions at women's colleges, and then I eventually became a college counselor to purposefully kind of get into that moment of how do I decide what a fit looks like for me as a student.
Wow, that's an interesting journey. And can you tell us about your company, the company that you work for, College Wise, and how does College Wise help students prepare for the college application process?
for the process. Yeah, so we started, 20 years ago with Kevin McMullen, our founder, who really started, kind of great origin story at kitchen tables in Irvine, California, really saying, how can I help you navigate this process? And I think what I've always loved about Kevin and what he still does to this day is we talk about the word joy in the college admissions process. That always perplexes families of what? This can be joyful, this can be fun. This can be stress less. And I think that is absolutely part of our still kind of the thread that has continued, despite obviously the many changes in admissions in the last 20 years. That has stayed the same. So we have been around, since 99, really helping families navigate the process, navigate finding a college that is a good fit for you, articulating your authentic story, to those colleges, and then deciding which colleges you want to go to. And I think my particular favorite part of that process is really this should and can be a process and a journey of self-discovery, as potentially hokey as that might sound. I think it is a huge pivotal moment in students' lives that we can get distracted by the seeming stress of it all and miss out on the learning opportunities of it as well.
Yeah, that's great. So when you go to the CollegeWise website and your profile, there's a video that you can watch. And what I took away from it is it seemed like you stayed pretty true to yourself in high school, and both when transferring colleges and, when finding a career. So can you talk a little bit about how embracing your authentic self is an advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I never shied away from, and I think I was lucky enough in that I was a staff kid. Both my parents were teachers or administrators at my school. I went to the same school from when I was in preschool to 12th grade, which is pretty much means I never had to make friends, which meant that my social skills were slightly limited, but it also meant that I got to kind of, we always say, fly your freak flag of kind of, I got to be my authentic self from an early age. I think there are photos of me wearing a Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt well into high school. And I had braces and headgear and, and I think I was kind of really allowed to be my full self, as dorky and as that was. And I think part of my favorite part of this process with my students is giving them permission to do the same. And I think so often the stress comes from trying to be somebody you're not and trying to reverse engineer yourself into what you think colleges will want. And I think forgetting that this is a human process, this counselor you're sitting across from used to be the person reading that application. And so if you can be your authentic self with me, I'm pretty sure you can be your authentic self on the paper or on the iPad or however they read it. So really giving them permission to be dorky. If you're dorky, be funny. Don't try to be funny if you're not funny. That never works, but be the qualities that are already there. And I know that that's kind of an overused probably line of advice, but I can't say it enough because I see so often kids trying to use the word plethora in an essay, even though they've never said that word out loud in a conversation. Kids trying to say they want to study engineering, even if they hate math. Kids who want to go to a school, in a certain area of the country, even if, say they want to go to NYU, but they don't know how to navigate a bus system or a subway. Giving permission to say, actually, maybe that isn't a fit, or this isn't who I am. And realizing that we have way too many, not too many, we have a lot of options in the United States. You're allowed to be picky here. And that pickiness should be in direct correlation to what's a good fit, what's authentic to yourself.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're talking about stress, and my next question was going to be a little bit, if you could just talk a little bit about what maybe some of the biggest worries you see kids have today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and I don't think any of this is new necessarily. I think a lot of it, I should say, is heightened because of how transparent and visible things are on social media. And that's, again, nothing new. But I do think that I see students having a heightened sense and oftentimes misaligned about what other kids are doing. Oh, that kid got a better score than me. That kid has better grades than me. That kid has lesser grades than me, but got into this school. And there's kind of this sense of what everybody else is doing. And I think that absolutely heightens the stress because it's very often, unless you're the one living in that body, having that experience, you don't actually know what that person is going through or kind of what their experience has been. And I think for a lot of times my kids will come in feeling like maybe they're the only one struggling with the SAT, or maybe they're the only one who got a bad grade on that physics final, or maybe they're the only one who got deferred from NYU, when in fact they're not alone, I think. And so normalizing the fact that it may seem like everybody else has it together, but they're all teenagers. They're all stressed and anxious and nervous and comparing themselves to each other. So I think that's probably one piece of it on the kind of micro level. I think on the macro level, there's just a continual narrative of scarcity in admissions for parents and kids alike, that there aren't enough spots to go around, that this is a highly competitive, cutthroat environment in which one kid gets in and one kid gets out, and the other kid who isn't in is going to be destitute and alone the rest of their lives. And this notion that it's zero sum, there are winners and losers. And I think it's a false narrative, but it's a narrative that perpetuates. And I think that on the macro level exacerbates a lot of the stress as well.
Totally. Hit the nail on the head right there. When's a good time to start the college admission process?
Well, I think, the process looks a lot different for a lot of different kids. And I think to me, it really depends on how excited are you about this? How much is it important to you? If you're a kid who wants to go to a local college, you want to pay an in-state tuition, you already know your pathway. I come from California, where we have a really good community college pathway system into the UCs. There are a lot of different ways this can look. So I think it's defining the fact that the process is going to look as varied and variable as teenagers do in the United States. So I think one, there's no singular way to do this. I think two, for most kids entering this process, I think getting a good sense of, at the summer before leading into junior year, I think that's a good time to start to look around and go, what am I liking? What classes am I enjoying? How do I learn best? What people do I gravitate towards? What environments am I most myself in? I think asking a lot of questions of yourself during junior year makes it far easier to then go, oh, that college is a replica of this. That college is actually a replica of everything I don't like about high school. I think it makes you a better informed kind of college shopper. So I think starting it early enough in junior year that you can really be thoughtful as you go through the search. I would say summer before junior year is a wonderful time to start.
Awesome. And can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the things you've seen students do wrong when approaching the college application process?
Yeah, I think for me, wrong and right, I won't get into a philosophical meandering about morality, sure, what is right or wrong, but I think to me, wrong would stem from what exacerbates stress. And I think what I would say where the stakes aren't real, right? Where we create stakes that aren't real, which to me is adding stress. To say stakes that are real are a kid who's homeless right now, who's trying to apply to college. If they don't get in and they don't get financial aid, those are real stakes, right? Mm-hmm. But I think saying my life will be over if I don't get into X school, and you're a kid who can afford a counselor or test prep and go to a nice high school, those to me, that is a misalignment of the stakes, right? So I think one is approaching this as though your life will be over. It won't be. You're going to be okay. And I always tell kids, I transferred, I made a choice that wasn't right for me, but I figured it out, and I'm all the better for it. Sometimes kids think, oh my God, what if I make the wrong choice? Well, I made a not great choice and I ended up pretty okay. So I think normalizing the fact that it's going to be okay, first of all. I think that's oftentimes the big error at the outset, is putting too much pressure on yourself. And I think two, probably not being open-minded enough in the college search process. I think understandably, our brains are attuned to asking everybody else, what's the best place, right? My first search when I get to a new city, where's the best coffee? I'm a huge coffee person. It's natural that we'll go, where's the best college, right? And I don't think we control the input enough, so we all get the same output, right? If you put best colleges, you'll get the same 10 schools on every website for the most part. And I would argue those 10 have no difference really than the school that was ranked 77th. But if you instead say, where is the place that has the best teaching within neuroscience, that would give me an internship, that has a quirky student body, who is social justice oriented, and that's the kind of kid you are, then those top 10 schools are actually going to be a way better fit for you than just saying what's the best college out there, right? So I think the second part of it, I think that kids do wrong is not being specific enough in the input variables they put into their search.
And honestly, like I have to put a plug in for someone like you who is just like really kept abreast on these different types of colleges. Because when you're looking at something very specific, that's going to take you a lot of time, and the investment to me is invaluable. I mean, when my 4-year-old grows up, I'm definitely going to hire somebody like you, because you're spending in the hours visiting these schools and narrowing things down. So
and
really
I think
appreciate it.
And I will say, a lot of parents or kids listening to that may go, gosh, I wish I had that many specific interests. I don't know what I want. And I think that's more often than not what I face is kids go, I don't know. I don't know what I want. Right. And parents go, I think we know what we want. And so I think that's where that introspection starts, where kids absolutely know what they love or don't love about their high school. So let's start there, right? Start about what's working for you now and what isn't. And then let's expand upon that to what could or couldn't work for you in a college environment.
Wow. I can tell that you're really good.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what role would you say parents play in the college application process, and what should they not be doing in the process?
It's a fair question. I think, every family is going to be a bit different in terms of who is paying for college, what family members are present in the process and who isn't. I think for the majority of families that I interact with, the parents are paying for college. So that's one role in which they're very much central to this.
Yeah.
And I think the one role that is hard, and I increasingly, I work at the intersection of, is that this process is also the process of this kid leaving their home, which means this is emotional, right? You have a kid. I think you can understand, oh my gosh, I'm not only navigating now, the mechanics of this process, but the undercurrent of it is the emotion of this process, which is, this is my kid leaving the nest. So it's a messy and interesting intersection of feelings. So I never want to discount a parent's understandable instinct to go, I want to be involved, because it's born out of fear that they're leaving also, and wanting to make sure they're prepared. All that being said, I think I most respect and support when this kind of looks like I always put it as, counselor is the coach, student is the athlete, parent is the cheerleader, right? I think the student is the one who's going to college. They're the one who's eventually going to have to do their own laundry and go to class and do all the things that we want to support them and enable them to be able to do. A trusted mentor, guide, a school counselor, independent counselor, whomever it is, can help kind of put the railings on it. Okay, here's what to do. Here's maybe what not to do. Here's some suggestions. Let's work together to make sure you're proud of what you submit. And parents get to cheerlead, which is what parents actually like to do, and go, I don't have to nag you at the dinner table, because no parent loves that. I don't want to have to grill you about if you did or didn't do something. I think being able to be a support and kind of celebrate those victories is the best place to be. And I think the biggest piece I'm seeing with my seniors right now, and a big rule at college-wise, is celebrate every yes. I think that's the biggest miss I see sometimes with parents or kids. They go, well, of course I got in there, right? It was my safety, or of course I got in there. But you should celebrate that. You're into college, right? We make it a challenge for parents to make a celebration for every single acceptance letter. If you're lucky enough to get into college, it deserves at least cake that night or ice cream.
Yeah.
So make sure you treat this in a celebratory way, because kids are watching and they absorb. If you have a 10-year-old younger sibling of an 18-year-old kid or whomever it is, they're watching. And if they don't see you celebrating, they're going to go, wow, this is scary. Mom and dad aren't really happy that my older sibling got into college. So I think we model behavior. And I think the more we treat this in a celebratory and exciting way, the more kids will absorb that that's what it is.
And what are some ways that you help seniors get ready? I mean, they're kind of like checking out, but it's a big year.
It is a big year. I mean, I think after their submitted apps or, certainly into college, I think one is, I always remind my seniors that when you sign off on Common Application, or pretty much every application these days, you're actually saying that the applicant you are upon point of submission is the applicant you will be when you arrive next September, meaning that senioritis is real and that if your grades drop, they have every right to take that away. Every offer of admissions actually is conditional, which kids forget. So they can take it away. Now, I will say, I don't say that to scare students, but some students need a little bit of reminding of that. But the other pieces, I think, aside from checking out, is I always check in with my seniors also about, say thank you to the adults who've supported you, particularly parents. If you have two, if you're lucky enough to have two of them, thank them. Thank the counselors, the people who've helped you along the way. They're also bittersweet. There's a lot of bittersweet feelings that summer before you leave for college. So I think this time of year for seniors is a good moment to be thankful to the teachers and the parents who've supported you along the way.
Love it. And what is the thing that you like the most about the work you do?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of things. I think I always love the moment when a kid learns something about themselves or kind of sees and crystallizes something about themselves they never saw before. I always love when students, especially I think my favorite moment, and I was talking with the parent about this, is the kids for whom I can tell college is going to be even better for them. There are some kids who are really struggling in high school right now, and I think I get to see the glimmer of hope of, wow, it's just going to get better for you. And I love that moment to see. I just can't wait to see you blossom. I have a soft spot for the late bloomer kids. And I think that is such a joyful part of this process, to just see and get those emails and phone calls or texts back from my college kids, or when they've graduated college and they're on to just these incredible, interesting things. That makes it all worth it for me.
Amazing. And how do we best get in touch with you and work with you and some counselors?
Gosh, carrier pigeon is one mode of transport, but otherwise you can email, you can go to collegewise.com. There's a whole bunch of us. We have tons and tons of counselors all over the world at this point. But I would say collegewise.com is the easiest way to start. And I'm sure we can include my email address at the end as well. You can always reach out to me. I'm based in the Boston area. But we have folks all over, and I actually work virtually with my students, as do all of our counselors these days. So we're kind of all over and in your computer.
Terrific. And any advice for teens getting ready for college and young adulthood?
Oh gosh, I think savor it and be grateful and pay it forward. If you were lucky enough to get into college, look around and see who else you can help join you in that place.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Casey, thanks so much for, being with us this morning, and appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
And this wraps up our show today. This was episode number 218 with Casey Neer. To work with Casey, go to collegewise.com and just look for Casey, and she'll steer you in the right direction, or maybe you can work with her. And remember, for another related episode, tune in to episode 160 with Lynn O'Shaughnessy. We talk about how to get smarter with the college planning process. Tune in to hear our next podcast episode, number 219. It will be me talking to you. It'll be my next tutoring tip for you. To access today's episode with Casey, our conversation number 218, and all of our podcast episodes, you can do that two ways. Go to preptandpolished.com/podcast, or you can go to soundcloud.com/preptandpolished. It's up to you. Thank you for joining us on the Prepped and Polished podcast. Now go out there and take control of your education.
You've been listening to the Prepped and Polished podcast. For more information, check out preptandpolished.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening. Class dismissed.